We are live this week. Thank you for everyone that has been just coming along with me each week and bearing with my technical difficulties. You all are the best. If you are watching us on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching us on Facebook, please share this. Share so someone else can see tonight's topic of how to start a small business. This is really meant to be a girl chat, informative, but it's for the males as well. So once again, thank you so much for joining us. And this is going to be a back and forth discussion, as well as you will be able to ask some questions. So I just encourage you to do that. Sit down, bring up, if you have dinner, snack, water, just sit with us as we chat. As a reminder, I am the author of A Brown Girl's Guide to Networking and Employment, and I definitely appreciate your support during this time. So without further ado, the reason why we're here for this hour is to talk about how to start a small business. And I would like to introduce my guest of tonight. She'll be on in a second, and there she is, Jessie St. Cyr.
Hello.
Yes, hello. Thank you so much, Jessie. Thank you. You are a special guest tonight talking about how to start a small business. So we welcome you. Jessie is the owner of St. Cyr Consulting, which is a management consulting company, and they are focused on building transformative leaders through leadership development, training, and coaching services. That's a lot, so you know she's a busy woman. Yeah. Also, Jessie has served under our current Governor, Charlie Baker, as well as the Secretary of Transportation. I mean, Jessie has, her accomplishments are, they go on and on and on of everything that she has accomplished. And even being a successful, woman and everything that she's done, she decided to, open her own business, and she went out on her own. And that's why I thought that she would be great for this topic. So Jessie, I will let you say a few things, and then we're going to start with our first question. So, tell us a little bit. I gave people a little bit of, your background, but tell us a little something, maybe a fun fact about you, as you would say, but tell us something about you.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much, Tamika, for having me on. It's a great pleasure to have you in my circle of friends and network, and you're a very accomplished woman yourself.
Thank you.
So I appreciate those comments. So my background, you shared a little bit. I am an attorney by trade, employment attorney, former HR executive, state official for the state of Massachusetts, and I was the deputy treasurer, one of the deputy treasurers for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts before I became Assistant Secretary of Transportation and Chief Administrative Officer, which is a mouthful.
Yes.
Essentially, that's just all about being responsible for all the workforce policies, practices, and programs. And I came in both of those organizations at a time where there was either widespread scandal on the part of the Treasury, or during the fallout of Snowmageddon. Most of you will remember that Massachusetts was under snow for a very long time, and the snow did not melt until July.
Yes.
And transportation just fell apart. And so they recruited me to address a number of the workforce related issues. So a lot of experience there, fixing and cleaning up. But my focus right now is being more strategic and proactive, and really building leaders to understand their roles better as stewards of talent, but also builders of future leaders. So
great. Yeah. Thank you. And so, okay, all that, you get through Snowmageddon, all that stuff, you save, here in Massachusetts, you save the MBTA $50 million, and you're accomplished, and you say, I want to start a small business. Take me through a little bit of that, because right now, some of the country is still under the shelter in place order. Some country, the whole country is under shelter in place, depending on where you live, right? And, pandemics, great ideas come out of pandemics. And so tell me, why did you decide why start a small business now when you're doing amazing things? Why go out on your own?
Well, I think your mention of the pandemic is really important because crisis will always reveal the strength of your foundation and cracks in your infrastructure,
Yes.
whether that's personal or business or anything else. And so, what I learned through almost 10 years of turnaround work um, was that. Leaders were not always prepared effectively for their roles. And I could continue to clean up issues that stem from the lack of preparedness, or I could be more proactive in building leaders. And um, I decided that at the end of my time at and at the Treasury, but at the Transportation Department, that I could either continue that work or do something else. I got great offers from other CEOs that I really respected. But I decided that I really wanted to do my own thing and
Mhm.
focus my energies where I wanted to focus my energies. And I've always wanted to have my own business. And I
Yes.
thought it was the right time. And I think I had built enough experience, really credibility in my community and within my network to be able to move forward with business opportunities. So again, the experience, expertise definitely mattered. The reputation amongst my network and also in my community was really, really important in making that decision. But I also spoke to a number of people I consider my trusted personal board of advisors
Hmm.
about my different ideas. And the feedback was always glowing. But of course, feedback could be great and people can cheer you on, but you got to as an attorney, I know a lot of attorneys, and I reached out to a couple of them just to get their thoughts, and especially those who are business owners, on how I could start this and what I needed to do to get all my ducks in a row before I move forward with the business. So that was really my thought process, my initial thought process, and what started me on the road.
Great. So you consult with, attorneys, as you said, your personal board of advisors, directors. Where should someone start? Let's just say if right now, maybe because they're just listening to this, session, but they've been thinking about, wow, I know how to make soap and I want to start a soap business, or, I really wanted to have my own makeup business, but they haven't consulted, advisors. So that's a pre-piece that's good to give, advice on where to start. But once you get past that, you talk to your advisors and you've done your research, really, where do you think is the first place if someone wants to start a business that they should start?
Well, I don't think of that conversation with the personal board of advisors. Let's call it BOA for short.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Bank of America, but
Good
I think
point.
that's really essential because um, you can share your idea, and they have to be trusted, right? Because
Right.
your idea might be unique. There might be some proprietary elements in there, so you want to be careful who you share your ideas with.
Good point.
Um, but the idea there was to get insight, to understand what's happening in the market, where there might be competition, if the idea makes sense,
Right.
if the timing was right. And then I think the next thing I did was I did connect with an attorney who happened to be a friend, but she's a corporate lawyer and does this for a living. And she works for other companies, but she also has a firm, her and her husband does.
Hmm.
Um, and so I needed guidance on tax implications, how to set up the business, because you can set up a business, you could do a DBA, doing business as, but that doesn't provide the tax shelter that you want. And I wanted to separate my personal finances from my personal finances. So
Right.
I know a lot of people don't think of those things ahead of time. Uh,
Yeah.
but given all the conversations that I've had, all the people I know, and having worked for so many business people, that was just my natural thought process, or more informed thought process. And so getting that advice was really important. I did a lot of research. on the different ideas that I had. I went to the Small Business Administration, so SBA.gov. They've been in the news a lot because of their administration of the PPP loans. Am I saying that right? Is it PPP?
Yeah, PPP. Yeah.
All of the stimulus packages and the loans to small businesses. So the SBA.gov was one of the first places that I went. And I think at that time I had already read Bishop T.D. Jakes' book, Soar, which is a book on starting your business. And there were a lot of great lessons there. So it was something that I had already been reading. So that was a great resource. And I wish I had it here with me. But that was a resource for me. And also Jubilee had, I don't want to forget this, it's really important. Jubilee had, they call it a mini MBA session for people who are interested in starting their own small businesses. And Andrew Ward, who's a deacon there, was leading the sessions. Great opportunity for those who are interested. But he just talked about developing a business plan, understanding how your idea could either be profitable or not, understanding your competition, understanding the market. Great program. So I went through that as well. And what else? I had already had my business plan together, but that program helped me to refine everything and define things that were not yet defined. So
got it.
Yeah, that was a mouthful, but
but that's right.
Yeah.
So, okay, so someone that also has founded a small business. What happens if you can't afford an attorney to consult with? And I know you just gave some tips, but is there something that they could even start like even smaller with? Or have you heard of people, for instance, to get an EIN number, you go to the website, the federal government's website, and you get your EIN number. So if they can't consult with an attorney, you recommended the SBA. Can you talk a little bit about what the SBA might be able to do for them, or, provide for them, like maybe a mentor? I don't know if you went through a mentoring also at SBA, but can you just give them one more like small, something that they could do tomorrow during this pandemic?
Well, a couple of things that they can do. Go to the Small Business Administration, www.sba.gov website, and they do have toolkits, frequently asked questions, a number of other tools and resources for people who are interested in starting their business. They really have a step-by-step process on how to do that and what to consider. In terms of the tax implications, the employee identification numbers, the other technical tax issues, you want to go to irs.gov, and you can literally just type in how to start a business or what do I need to start a business, and it will outline for you different entities under which you could establish the business, the LLC, the incorporation, the S Corp, different ways to do that. And how they define each and every single one of them. So that's another resource. Both very, very helpful sites. If you had nothing else, you could really depend on the information there. Another area I would suggest is the Secretary of State website. So mass.gov. I can't remember if the Secretary of State website is separate from mass.gov. But if you just type in Secretary of State for Massachusetts, William Galvin is the Secretary of State, and you can look at that website too. And there are forms and resources that you can access free of charge that will help you determine how you want to set up the business and what you need to do to file with the state of Massachusetts. So those are three things I would recommend. Score.org.
Which is very important.
Yeah, so which is Service Corps of Retired Executives, which is a nonprofit program run through the SBA. Great program. All of the mentors are retired executives, so they are seasoned professionals. They understand this area very well. Many of them are small business owners themselves or large business owners. So you can hook up with or connect with a SCORE and get a mentor, and they can provide you with guidance on how to do this as well. I find them to be invaluable, especially now. I have four SCORE mentors, and they all specialize in different things, but they've all been very helpful to me. I'm just looking at my notes here just to see if I missed anything else. But I would say so. YouTube is probably a great place to go. There are
Yes.
videos on everything.
Yes.
And if you YouTube how to start my own business, you'll probably get different videos that you can watch. But the good thing to do is to trust but verify, right? So you might watch the video just to get your juices running and help you think through the process, but then go back to the SBA, go back to the IRS, go back to your SCORE mentors, just to get more information. Last resource that I would recommend here is the Center for Women in Enterprise, which is C as in car, W as in women, E as in engineering or enterprise. CWE.org is another resource that I was recommended, that was recommended to me. I haven't looked into it, but it does exist. And from what I understand, it's a great resource for women who are particularly interested in starting their own business.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for
Mhm.
all that. Hopefully, our listeners were able to write that down. I encourage everyone to go on those websites because they will help you tremendously. Just to shift for a second, because, Jesse, I consider myself a workforce guru, having wrote, a book about, employment and networking, and just been in the workforce industry, almost 20 years. I can't believe it, but almost 20 years that I've been in the workforce industry. There's a lot of people that are sitting home right now, during this pandemic. And, just really, there's 15 million people on unemployment right now. And, some of them are on unemployment. No, sorry, they're all on unemployment, but some of them are furloughed, should I say, where when the industry comes back, the job is saying, we're going to welcome you back. Then there's other jobs that are just really going to be closed. There won't be options there. And so, that's why I'm holding this session, because I know that there is people out there that are currently saying, I have this great idea, and I just want to encourage someone to use the advice that you've given them on where to go. But I also want to talk a little bit about, because, there are some good days, there are some bad days to owning your own business. So maybe you could talk a little bit about those challenges, about that. But I will say, to my audience out there, I was having a simple conversation with Jesse, and we were just talking about, this pandemic and, how some people, are struggling financially. And, she was like, what, I've prepared myself that I'm going to be okay, for the next year because of what she's done, prior to the pandemic. So she's not a small business that, is all of a sudden she had to be panicking. I'm sure she had days where she was panicking, but it is because of her preparation in her small business, where she is doing sessions like this for free, because we know how much you can command per hour. So maybe you can just tell us, like, leading up to those steps of, forming your business, what was it like to get your first contract? What were some of the challenges that you faced? Because I follow you on social media, and I know, that post that said, I got my first, 6-figure contract. And I was like, yes, that's amazing for an African-American, female that has, started her own business, and to get that contract, that's an encouragement for us all that are sitting here saying, I want to found a business, but am I going to make it? Yes, you're going to make it, but maybe you can just talk about the challenges and the, the achievements that you've had along the way, some of the ups and downs that someone might go through.
Okay, so that's a multi-layered question. I'll
It
try to
is.
tackle and
It
just
is.
tell me if I miss anything. So before I go there, the one other resource I would share with you, or two other, cityofboston.gov is definitely a proponent of small businesses.
Yes.
And also mass.gov is probably another good website you want to go to with free resources. I think getting my information out there. Yes, I talked to my board of advisors, my BOA, and I let people know that I was really thinking about this seriously, moving towards this, really to get information, get feedback, but also to build some anticipation around the launch. I worked with someone who helped me with the marketing, setting up the website. I mean, there are a lot of other mechanics to setting up a business, and you have to be online, right?
Yes. Yes.
This pandemic has taught us technology is critical, right? So
Yes.
having an online presence was important, and social media, and tying my brand and all of that together was really important. But I remember I did my launch back in February 2019, was it? God, it feels long ago. Yeah, it was nerve-wracking. It was nerve-wracking because I didn't know what was going to happen. I was hoping for the best. I was hoping my network would work for me.
Yes.
That there was enough information about all of the things that I had accomplished through my previous roles that people would understand that I had expertise in these areas and that I was credible, right? As a professional, as an attorney, and as an HR professional. And let me make a disclaimer here. I do not practice law through the consulting company.
Yes.
Strict rules around that. So just to be clear.
Yes.
But yeah, it was really, really nerve-wracking to do that. And I remember, let me see. So I launched I launched January 30 and 31. And in February, March, I got a couple of calls for proposals because people heard of me, and other folks within my network or former employees actually recommended me to work with either their employers or with other employers.
That's awesome.
Quite interesting. And I was like, oh, okay, that's great.
Yeah.
So put out a couple of proposals. Nothing came about those. And then a couple of folks called me. I actually provided some free consulting and help people address their issues without having to charge them. And I did that because I think having good ethics is really important. I could charge you a couple $100 an hour for an answer that would literally just take me a couple of minutes if I listened to some feedback. And I decided, hey, let's do this in good faith and move forward. And people are like, why would you do that? And I'm like, I just, it's not always about the money for me. It's about solving problems. But I'm here to make profit.
Yes, you are. Let's be clear.
Yeah, crystal clear about that, and I will charge you. I think at the end of the day that will work out in some way, shape, or form. But the first call I got was from someone that I knew, also an attorney who happens to be the chief executive of her organization. And she's like, we need you.
Wow.
We just need you. We know what you've done. I know personally what you've been able to achieve at the transportation department, through the MBTA, and before that, the Treasury. She's like, I know you. I know your credentials. Let's go. And initially it was to conduct an HR assessment.
Yes.
Which is a form of an audit, but not officially an audit. And the assessment entails engaging IT, finance, and HR and the executive leadership to understand what the challenges are, what the opportunities are, and to develop a roadmap to move forward, and to really align HR with the business and to make sure that the employees have the resources and support, and leadership has the resources and support it needs from HR. And so it started off with that, and then it developed into not a CEO search, a C-suite search, bringing in their chief HR officer, helping them develop job descriptions and strategies for other senior level positions, to training and development, to leadership training. It snowballed. And then what was supposed to be just a one-off really became a six-figure contract.
Wow.
For this organization. I still work with them. And they're a great client to have. But in terms of some of the other challenges, I think resources, I'm used to having big teams. At MassDOT, MassDOT and the T, I oversaw departments combined staff of almost 200 when I started.
Wow.
So I have resources. I have think in somebody does. But I had to roll up my sleeves, from state government experience. You got to roll up your sleeves and do a lot of the work. So I was in the trenches a lot. But so one of the challenges was, having other people to hand the stuff off to. And so I brought in contractors to support some of the work, contractors directly working with me. And then I also found other consultants that could work directly with the client to support them. Again, the goal was support the client, service the client, make sure the work is done. And that's how it worked. Did I miss any part of your question?
Nope. My questions always are multi-layered on purpose because I like to talk, so I'll just throw in questions in there. So I appreciate that. I think that it's just important that, starting out, like, I think, one thing, the word that you said was your network, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's what I like to talk about is networking. You were able to start so fast and secure, these contracts because, again, it's preparation, in your network. And mm-hmm. I think, that is key. If I can just stress that to everybody, a lot of times we don't like to get out of the house. Well, right now we can't, but when we can, oftentimes when we are at work, some of us are parents and there is that event and we're just like, oh, I don't want to go. But it's just important that we make it to these events. Or if you can't get out, meet someone new on LinkedIn, someone that you can ask them about their industry or ask them how they get started, because it's just this story that you're telling us, Jesse, it's successful, but it's really successful, like you said, because of the network that you had, established, prior to, starting your own business. And another keyword is credibility. So people knew who you were. They knew you were credible. They knew your character. And that's just, important, because if you're out there working and people know like how you treat people and, you're being, shady, why would they want to, come to you? So I think it just speaks to, you getting that, that six-figure contract. It really does speak to who you are and your credibility and why you can mentor and teach others if they want to, go down that path. So I think that's great. Can we take a question? Actually, Jesse, we have a question that has come into you. So the question from Stephanie Thompson, thank you for watching, is she also actually just says, great point about credibility. What recommendations would you share for someone creating a business around their gifts and talents versus something they have a proven track record or career in? Wow. I can, if you want me to read it again, I can, but I think that's a great, that's a great question. Speak about it, Jesse.
Yeah, great question. So I would emphasize the point about your vast experience and credibility. The thing is, your gifts and talents and where you have a proven track record may be two different things. And if you can monetize those gifts and talents, or if they can be profitable in some way, shape, or form, and it's proven that it could be profitable, maybe you want to lead with that. But people will naturally think of your business as an extension of your background, right?
Mm.
So if you have demonstrated through those gifts and talents that um, you are credible, that you do have proficiency in that gift and talent. If there's demand really for that gift and talent, that's the thing, because we can be gifted in different ways, and there's a small market for what we're gifted in. There's a small audience for that. And if we want to be a kind of like a niche business and we want to focus on a small market, that's absolutely fine. But the reason why you go into business is to be profitable, unless you want to do a nonprofit, right? And so I would think about that in terms of, do I have other experience, whether it's unpaid experience, internship experience, community experience, that when I launch this business, that people would see that I've used this gift and talent in some way that has benefited other people, and two, that
Mm.
there's a market for it. And see what other people are doing. Maybe you type in, or you do a Google search, you YouTube. Maybe you see what other businesses are registered doing the kinds of things that you want to do through your gift and talent. But it's about profit at the end of the day. And if there's no market for that talent, or you don't have an experience that you want to speak to, then the foundation that you have to lay for that business is going to take a little bit more time than the average person who is probably leaning more on their work experience. Um, and the other thing is, you definitely don't want to move into a business doing something that you've always done just because you've done it. If you don't enjoy it, if you're not going to give your heart and soul to it, well, not your heart and soul, but if you're give it 100% of your time, because running a business is a lot of work, then don't do that, right? So if you're more interested in that gift and talent and making it profitable, then run with that. But again, is there proof in the pudding that it's going to be profitable? Um, let me see, anything else about that? No.
I mean, I think that, we keep saying profit, right? But how do you, I mean, because I'm struggling with this as well, right? I mean, you mentioned you did a few things that you didn't charge for. And I also have done things that I have not charged for. And so, I don't know if you can give any advice, this is just thinking, but, how do you set that goal for the profit? Like, is there any way that you say, okay, yes, this was a good profit or this was a bad profit? I mean, did you have any insight into that, Jesse, of what you wanted to make for your first year? Is it just that, like me, I'm a vision board girl. So yes, I have that on my vision board. But, in your type of industry, did you do research on what would be, we know that you have a 6-figure contract, but what would be deemable profit? And I don't know if that's just a question that maybe cannot be answered, but maybe you can just shed some insight to those that are, planning on starting, and how much they should look, depending on the industry, right? So
Yeah. So let me go back to the initial question. So, and I actually can use myself as an example. So I
sure.
was an HR exec, and also an attorney, right? I'm still licensed to practice in the state of Massachusetts. I had a choice: start a law firm, which was of no interest to me at the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
because Massachusetts is congested with lawyers, great attorneys. I know a lot of them. I would be competing against them, some of them very dear friends. I was just like, that's not something I want to do right now, although there
Yes.
would be an interest and market for it. Um, but I started off doing HR assessments, really operational work,
Yes.
supporting organizations through that. And it was profitable, but it really wasn't where I wanted to focus all of my energy. I
Yes.
really wanted to focus more of my energy on the proactive, strategic, and really helping leaders understand their roles, right? And that they weren't just about, it wasn't just about a title or position. It was about being a steward of talent. It was about
Yes.
building future leaders. It was about empowering people for whatever purpose, right? So that's what I wanted to be more strategic, because my thought process was, if I can help leaders understand their roles better, then some of the issues that I had to clean up or address with the state treasury, with the transportation department, with some of my clients, that I can prevent some of that by training them and supporting them in their roles, or more equipping them more effectively for their roles.
Yes.
Um, so I had to make a switch with my business. It was St. Cyr Talent Strategies before. Now it's St. Cyr Consulting,
Mm-hmm.
focusing primarily on the area that I want to focus on. So
Yes.
there has to be a connection there. In terms of financial goals, through that program that I went through at Jubilee, I set some financial goals. And I think we tend to be timid when it comes to financial goals, because we kind of like, oh, well, it'll work and let's pray. But faith without works is dead.
Yeah.
You have to plan, and it's the plans that you then pray on is what God directs you on. And if you have no plan, then you're just kind of like not focused.
That's
And so
right.
I had to have some targets, and I didn't hit my target year one. And I was ambitious with the target. I have high expectations. And so when I don't hit the target, it's a failure for me, but it's also an opportunity to learn. So I'm super hard on myself. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm more gracious with other people than I am with myself. But I did have a financial goal, and it was based on what I understood what was happening in the industry, understanding what some of my competitors were doing, not having access to all of their information, but through the Secretary of State, you can see what companies file, right?
Ah.
That information is available. Some records are very much public.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then having worked with the state and having signed off on 6-figure, 7-figure contracts on behalf of the state, I knew what we were paying people who were
Yes.
in the business of doing what I'm doing. I'm like, I signed these contracts.
Yes.
So I knew what to charge, and I also knew that the amount of money I wanted to make was absolutely achievable. And given my experience, and a lot of it was public in the newspapers and stuff, people knew who I was and what I was doing, and I could leverage that. So that's
Yes.
the answer.
Well, everyone is in the comments saying, yes, faith without works is
Yeah.
dead, and passion and purpose. And this is so true, right? Because that's what you really have to have. And, one thing you said as we close out soon is, really, you didn't say this, but you saw with the contracts that the state was signing, you knew your talent, you knew your skill, and it comes down to you know your worth, right?
Yeah.
And so it's important that when you are starting a small business, when you are going through the different channels, networking or meeting people, and then you have you're ready to launch, you're ready to go, that if we talk about profit, you really have to know your worth. You cannot self-doubt. You cannot think, once you go through all that, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to ask people to send them an invoice or a bill? But you really have to know your worth. And once you know your worth, you got God on your side, you got you know your worth, and that's why you are Jessie St. Cyr, and you've been able to score that 6-figure contract, and many more 6-figure contracts and bigger are in your future. So I just wanted to we're coming down to the end of our girl chat, and I want to thank you, because I think you are a successful business. You really have shown me, from just talking with you and following you on social media, what you can do, and I thank you for that. So I just wanted to allow you a few words. How can someone get in touch with you? Because again, this is a business, and there are many things that you can do to help other businesses. So how can someone get in touch with you and share some words of wisdom?
Well, first, how can they get in touch with me? My website is stcyrconsulting.com, www.stcyrconsulting.com. After the session, I will make sure to type it in. I'm doing
Great.
a session tomorrow at 11 Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Central Time on leading with self-care because it's Mental Health Month. So you
Yes.
can join there. It's free. I will share that as well. But that's how they can reach me. Email at info@stcyrconsulting.com.
Say it again. You said it really fast. Say it slow. Say it one more time. Info.
Info at stcyrconsulting.com. I
Great.
will type it in after this. Um, uh, I offer remote services, online services, and I can develop training webinars, things like that for employers as well. And nuggets of wisdom, I would say number one, you're going to make mistakes year one. You're going to make mistakes throughout, right? And I made some mistakes, and it's still a work in progress, and I'm still learning. But under promise and overperform. Don't commit more than you have the capacity to do, because when you fail a client, it's something they'll remember. And I think that's something that's really, really important. And where you fail or where you don't deliver at the level that you want to, be clear on that. Don't make any apologies for that, even if there were factors completely outside of your control. Apologize and try to make it right. And if you need to give a refund or offer other services or fix the error, do that. You may not always be in the position to do it, but be humble enough to say, I messed up and this wasn't my best. And how can I serve you in a way that would maybe correct the error or address it or make it right? So humility is, I think, very, very important in the process. Be gracious to yourself, better than I am to myself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jessie, for joining us. Jessie
Mhm.
will post her information after this live is over. And you have comments, Jessie, where people are saying, yes, please post. And, you know, that you were inspiring. So thank you, everyone, again, for tuning in. If you are watching us on YouTube, hit that like button and subscribe. Also, again, my book is A Brown Girl's Guide to Employment and Networking. Sorry, it was off screen. And again, this is Tamika Jacques from Fruitful Vision Enterprises, and thank you so much.
I'm sorry, Tamika. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
I just cut you off. So we did a session on employment and networking. I'm gonna put the link in there. There's a YouTube video. You can watch that, and that's free,
Yes.
especially for those who've been laid off for the season or looking for career tips.
Yes, absolutely. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to listen. If you want to hear of any topics, please send me a message, leave me a message, and I will try to curate guests and topics around that, around what you are looking to learn about. So once again, thank you so much. Hit that like or subscribe button if you're on YouTube. Have a great night.